On the alien world of Zephyria, a young Xerian child named Silo found himself lost and alone. His parents had cast him out into the dark wilderness, fearing the consequences of having a child who was different. Abandoned and terrified, Silo wandered through the dense jungle, the bioluminescent plants casting an eerie glow around him. He screamed for help, but the only response was the rustling of leaves and the distant cries of predators. Meanwhile, Captain James Thompson of the United Earth Space Fleet received a distress signal that shattered the silence of his ship, the USF Valiant. The message, punctuated by the boy's broken English, reached deep into his heart. As a widowed father, the plea for rescue ignited a powerful instinct to protect this innocent life. Ignoring the orders from his superiors, he altered the course of his ship towards Zephyria, aware that the planet was off-limits to humans due to past conflicts. Tensions ran high as the Valiant established orbit of the vibrant green planet. Thompson knew he was entering a dangerous situation, facing not only the treacherous terrain but also the wrath of the Xerian High Council, who had banished all humans after a bloody war years prior. Yet, the thought of Silo dying alone drove him forward. The child's fate weighed heavily on him. As the shuttle touched down in a clearing, Thompson's team deployed, weapons at the ready. The jungle around them was alive with sounds, both beautiful and foreboding. Thompson scanned the area, instructing his team to stay vigilant and keep their eyes peeled for any signs of the boy. "Private Rodriguez, do you see anything?" Thompson asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Sir, I've got small footprints here." Rodriguez pointed at the ground, excitement lacing his voice. "They look fresh." Thompson knelt beside the tracks, his heart racing. "Good eye, Rodriguez. This must be Silo's trail. Let's follow it, but stay alert." As the team pressed deeper into the jungle, the vibrant flora illuminated their path with an eerie glow, casting shifting shadows that danced around them. The air was thick with humidity, rich with the scent of damp earth and blooming flora, a sensory overload that heightened their awareness of both beauty and danger. Thompson felt a sense of urgency swell within him. They had to find Silo before it was too late. The jungle was alive with sounds. Strange creatures called to one another, their voices echoing through the trees, a haunting symphony that both fascinated and unsettled the soldiers. Thompson led his team, constantly scanning the underbrush for any sign of the lost child. The stakes were high, and they had no room for error. Suddenly, a chilling howl cut through the cacophony, freezing the soldiers in their tracks. Thompson raised a hand, signaling for silence. The atmosphere shifted, the jungle seemingly holding its breath. Shapes moved swiftly between the trees, and Thompson's heart raced. "Contact! Prowlers ahead," he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. Before he could finish his warning, two wolf-like creatures charged out of the foliage, their eyes glowing with feral hunger. With sleek, muscular bodies covered in matted fur, they were formidable opponents. Thompson didn't hesitate. He raised his plasma rifle and fired. The crack of energy filled the air as blue plasma bolts lit up the dim surroundings. "Engage." Thompson barked as his team opened fire. Plasma rounds streaked through the jungle, illuminating the darkened underbrush. The prowlers leaped into the fray, one targeting Private Hawkins. The creature's claws raked across Hawkins' leg, sending him sprawling to the ground, a pained cry escaping his lips. "Hawkins is hit," shouted Sergeant Yuan, rushing to assist his fallen comrade. Thompson's focus narrowed as he aimed at the prowler attacking Hawkins, feeling the weight of command on his shoulders. "Cover fire," he yelled, squeezing the trigger. A plasma bolt struck the creature in the chest, and it crumpled to the ground, lifeless. But they were still not out of danger. "Get him up," Thompson urged, rushing to Hawkins' side. The private struggled to rise, pain etched across his face. "I can't walk, sir. My leg." "Like hell you can't. We're not leaving anyone behind," Thompson said firmly, lifting Hawkins' arm over his shoulder. Yuan and another soldier, Corporal Janus, moved quickly to flank them, forming a protective perimeter. The team pushed further into the jungle, the sense of urgency intensifying with each passing moment. They followed the trail of small footprints, the signs leading them deeper into the unknown. Sweat dripped down Thompson's brow as they maneuvered through the dense vegetation, every rustle a reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. "Stay close," he commanded. "We have to find that kid." As they advanced, the forest seemed to come alive around them. Bioluminescent plants flickered in shades of green and blue, casting an ethereal glow that made the shadows dance eerily. Thompson could feel the eyes of unseen creatures watching them, curiosity mingling with predatory instincts. "Sir, I see something up ahead," Yuan called, holding up a fist to signal the team to halt. "Looks like wreckage." Thompson's heart sank as they approached. It was a small Xerian shuttle, half buried in the underbrush, the hull torn open and exposed to the elements. The sight of the crashed ship filled him with dread. If Philo had been on board, what had happened to him? "Cover me," Thompson instructed, climbing cautiously into the wreck. The interior was dark and cluttered, remnants of the crash scattered about. He spotted a child-sized boot and a torn, blood-stained tunic, a chilling confirmation of their worst fears. "This has to be the ship the kid was on," Thompson called out, his voice strained. "But no bodies. Maybe he survived." Just as hope flickered in his chest, a piercing screech split the air. Thompson looked up just in time to see a massive winged creature swoop down from the sky, its talons outstretched. It was a Xerian sky terror, a monstrous predator drawn by the scent of blood. The sight sent a jolt of fear through the team. "Take cover in the shuttle. Move," Thompson shouted, adrenaline surging as they scrambled back inside the wreckage. The sky terror landed with a thud, its wings unfurling, revealing a hide covered in thick, armored scales. Thompson and his team opened fire, but their plasma bolts seemed to bounce off its hide like raindrops. The creature roared in fury, its eyes narrowing as it focused on the humans. Thompson's mind raced. They had to disable the creature before it could retaliate. "Concentrate your fire on its wings. Pin it down," he ordered, determination hardening his resolve. The team worked in unison, their shots peppering the creature's wings, seeking to ground it. With a final, desperate move, Thompson reached for a plasma grenade from his belt. "Get clear," he yelled, priming the device and hurling it toward the beast. The explosion rocked the clearing, smoke and flames engulfing the creature. It screamed in rage, collapsing to the ground in a smoking heap. But the blast had drawn unwanted attention. A squad of Xerian soldiers emerged from the jungle, weapons trained on the humans. At their head was Commander Xantar, his expression twisted in disdain. "Humans, you dare violate our sovereign territory. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift," he shouted, his voice echoing with authority. Thompson stepped forward, rifle leveled at Xantar's chest. "Not happening. We're here for the child, Xylo. We're not leaving without him." Xantar sneered, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "You have no claim to the boy. He is Xerian, and his fate is not your concern." Thompson's resolve only hardened. "I'm making it my concern. I won't let you condemn an innocent child to die." The tension between the two groups crackled in the air, the soldiers on both sides poised for action. Just then, a small, frightened voice pierced the standoff. "Help, please." All eyes turned to the underbrush, where a trembling figure emerged. It was Xylo, wide-eyed and thin, his clothes torn and dirty. Relief surged through Thompson as he saw the small boy standing before them, vulnerable yet brave. "Xylo," Thompson called, kneeling down and extending a hand. "It's okay, you're safe now." The boy hesitated, his small body tensing as if ready to flee back into the safety of the forest, but something in Thompson's voice, in the kindness of his posture, drew him forward. With tentative steps, Xylo moved toward the humans, his gaze locked on their unfamiliar yet warm faces. As Silo reached Thompson, the tension of the standoff hung heavy in the air. The commander could feel the world around them fade away, every soldier, every creature, every threat dissolving into insignificance. All that mattered was this child who had been cast aside. "Come here, little one," Thompson said gently, lowering himself further to the boy's level. "We're going to get you out of here. You're safe now." Silo's eyes filled with tears, the weight of his ordeal crashing down on him. Thompson opened his arms, and the child rushed forward, collapsing into the embrace of the human who had dared to care. In that moment, the soldiers of Earth and the Xerian child shared a connection that transcended their differences, a fragile thread of hope amidst the chaos. But Xanta's voice sliced through the moment. "You dare to take him from us? The High Council will not stand for this." Thompson released Tylo, turning to face the commander with steely determination. "Then they'll have to come through us first." The air grew thick with tension as both sides prepared for the inevitable clash. But at that moment, with Tylo safely in their midst, the humans stood resolute, ready to fight for what was right. They had crossed into enemy territory for a purpose, and now they would defend that purpose with everything they had. The jungle loomed around them, alive with the promise of danger and the chance of survival. This was not just a rescue mission anymore. It was a stand against oppression, a fight for innocence. And as they faced the impending conflict, Thompson knew that humanity's greatest strength lay not just in their weapons, but in their unyielding spirit and the courage to protect those who could not protect themselves. With the jungle behind them and the unknown ahead, the battle for Xylo's future had just begun. The jungle buzzed with tension, a living entity watching the confrontation unfold. Thompson felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. They had no choice but to stand firm against Xanta and his forces. The safety of Xylo and the integrity of their mission depended on it. "Prepare for engagement," Xanta barked, signaling his soldiers. They shifted, forming a semicircle around the humans, weapons raised and poised to strike. "Don't fire unless I say so," Thompson commanded, his heart racing. He needed a strategy, a way to buy time and ensure Xylo's safety without escalating the conflict into chaos. "Thompson, Yuan called urgently. We can't hold them back for long. They're heavily armed." "I know," Thompson replied, glancing at Xylo, who clung to his leg, eyes wide with fear. "We need to make them see reason. We're not here to invade. We're here to save a child." Xanta's eyes narrowed, his patience wearing thin. "You presume to dictate terms in our domain, human. The High Council will not tolerate your insolence." "Your council can listen to reason," Thompson shot back, stepping forward. "You've seen the destruction this planet has faced. You know there's no place for a child in this war. Let him go." Xanta's lips curled in a mocking smile. "You think you can negotiate with us? You are trespassers, and trespassers pay the price." Suddenly, the jungle erupted in chaos as Xanta ordered his troops to advance. Thompson's heart pounded as he raised his rifle, the world narrowing to a single point, the need to protect Xylo and his team. "Fall back to the shuttle. Use it as cover." The team swiftly retreated toward the wrecked shuttle, their movements coordinated despite the rising tension. Xylo stumbled behind Thompson, who kept a protective stance between the boy and the advancing Xerian forces. Plasma bolts whizzed past them, sizzling through the air and illuminating the thick foliage. "Cover fire," Thompson shouted, returning fire as they neared the shuttle. His team instinctively took their positions, forming a defensive line. Yuan, Janice, and the others fired in unison, creating a barrier of plasma energy that momentarily halted the advance of Xanta's forces. "Get inside," Thompson urged Xylo, who hesitated, eyes darting between the chaos outside and the safety of the shuttle. "Now." With a deep breath, Xylo bolted for the entrance, scrambling inside as Thompson continued to lay down covering fire. The sound of plasma impacts mixed with the growls of the Sky Terror, whose charred remains was still smoldering nearby. This was not just a battle for Xylo. It was a fight for humanity's right to exist in this strange world. As Thompson took refuge behind the shuttle's reinforced hull, he glanced back to see Hawkins gritting his teeth against the pain in his leg. "You good to go?" Thompson asked, keeping his voice steady. "Yeah, I'm with you," Hawkins grunted, determination flickering in his eyes. "Let's finish this." With a rallying shout, Thompson pushed to the front of the shuttle, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We need to create a diversion. Yuan, Janice, I want you two to flank left. Hawkins and I will provide covering fire from here." The soldiers nodded, readying themselves for the next phase of their plan. Yuan and Janice moved like shadows, darting out of sight to execute their flanking maneuver. Thompson and Hawkins took a position at the shuttle's front, waiting for the moment to strike. As the Zerian forces closed in, Xanta shouted commands, directing his soldiers to advance with ruthless efficiency. "Take them down, show no mercy." The sounds of the jungle morphed into an orchestration of chaos, the clash of weapons, the screams of combatants, and the pulse of energy beams colliding in the air. Thompson could feel the weight of the fight pressing down on him, but he focused on the goal: protect Silo at all costs. "Now," Thompson shouted as Yuan and Janice erupted from their cover, firing on the Zerian troops from the side. The surprise attack momentarily threw the enemy into disarray, allowing Thompson and Hawkins to take aim and fire at the disoriented soldiers. "Push forward," Thompson yelled, emboldened by the change in momentum. The humans surged, plasma bolts lighting up the jungle in bursts of blue and orange. They moved as a unit, Thompson leading the charge, their camaraderie solidifying under the threat of chaos. But Xanta was not easily deterred. He rallied his troops, and they began to regroup. "Flank them. Do not let them escape." The Zerian commander's voice rang out with authority, and the soldiers responded with renewed vigor. The humans found themselves in a desperate struggle, outnumbered and outgunned. Thompson felt the pressure mounting, every heartbeat echoing in his ears as he fought to maintain control. Just then, a massive rumble shook the ground beneath them. A nearby explosion sent debris flying through the air, and Thompson instinctively ducked, narrowly avoiding a shower of earth and foliage. Confusion spread through both sides as soldiers lost focus. "What was that?" Yuan shouted, peering through the smoke. "I don't know, but we can't let it distract us," Thompson replied, his instincts flaring. "Focus on the fight." As the smoke began to clear, a new figure emerged, a hulking creature, part mechanical and part organic, lumbering toward the battle. It was a war beast, bred for destruction, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Fall back," Thompson yelled, eyes wide. "We can't take that thing down with small arms fire." The war beast unleashed a roar that resonated through the jungle, shaking the trees around them. Xanta's troops turned their attention to the new threat, and for a brief moment, the humans were given a reprieve. Thompson seized the opportunity. "Now's our chance. Let's go." He waved his team forward, urging them toward the nearby foliage. They had to escape the immediate danger and regroup. As they slipped into the cover of the jungle, Thompson's mind raced. They couldn't afford to run forever. They needed a plan, a way to confront Xanta and his forces head-on while ensuring Silo's safety. "Sir, what do we do now?" Hawkins asked, breathing heavily as they crouched behind a large tree. "We need to draw them away from the shuttle," Thompson replied, glancing around. "If we can create enough chaos, we can get Silo to safety while we deal with Xanta." Yuan nodded, his expression resolute. "We can use the environment to our advantage. The jungle has its own defenses. We can set traps or lure them into danger." Thompson considered their options. "All right, we'll split up into 2 teams. Yuan, you and Janice create diversions at the northern perimeter. Hawkins and I will hold our position and draw their attention. If all goes well, we can flank Xanta when he least expects it." "Understood," Yuan replied, determination shining in his eyes. "We'll make it work." Silo, Stay close to us, Thompson said, turning to the boy. We're going to get you to safety. As the team prepared to execute their plan, the roar of the war beast echoed in the distance, a reminder of the chaos still brewing in the jungle. With a final glance at Silo, Thompson felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting a child and proving humanity's strength against overwhelming odds. Let's move, Thompson urged, leading the way through the thick foliage. They crept silently, weaving between the towering trees, every sense heightened as they navigated the perilous terrain. The jungle felt alive, its dense undergrowth concealing secrets and dangers alike. As they reached the northern perimeter, Yuan and Janice split off, their figures fading into the shadows. Thompson and Hawkins continued on, staying low and alert. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted nearby, followed by the distinct sound of weapons fire. That's Yuan's team, Thompson whispered, adrenaline surging. Let's go. We need to support them. They rushed toward the sound, moving swiftly through the underbrush until they reached a clearing. There, Yuan and Janice were engaged in a fierce firefight, their plasma rifles flashing as they fended off Xantar's advancing troops. Thompson, over here, Yuan shouted, signaling them to join the fray. Thompson and Hawkins dove into the fight, plasma bolts flying in every direction. The intensity of the battle surged, the air thick with the acrid smell of burnt foliage. Thompson fought with everything he had, using his training to anticipate enemy movements, but the pressure was mounting. Hold the line, Yuan yelled, determination etched on his face. We can't let them push us back. Thompson, Hawkins called, glancing back toward Silo, who stood at the edge of the clearing, frozen with fear. He can't stay here. We need to get him to safety. Thompson's heart raced as he glanced at the child. Silo, get behind the trees. Stay out of sight. The boy nodded, tears of fear mixing with determination as he darted to the nearest tree, finding shelter. The sight ignited Thompson's resolve. They had to end this fight quickly to protect him. Yuan, Janice, we need to press forward, Thompson shouted, rallying his team. We can't let Xantar regroup. They moved as one, launching a coordinated offensive against the Xerian soldiers. As the fight intensified, Thompson's mind sharpened with focus. The chaos of the battle faded into the background. All that mattered was their mission. Suddenly, Xantar's voice boomed over the clamor, fierce and commanding. You think you can defeat me? You are nothing but insects. Thompson's blood boiled at the commander's arrogance. We'll show you what humanity can do, he shouted back, pushing through the line of enemy soldiers. With a final surge, Thompson and his team broke through the Xerian defenses, advancing toward Xantar. The commander stood defiantly, plasma rifle in hand, a sneer on his face. Foolish human, you think your bravery can change the outcome? You will die here, Xantar shouted, taking aim. But before Xantar could pull the trigger, Yuan charged forward, tackling the commander to the ground. Get the kid, he shouted, grappling with Xantar as they rolled in the dirt. Go, go, Thompson urged, racing back to where he had left Silo. He spotted the boy still behind the tree, eyes wide with terror. Silo, it's time to move. W, what about you? Silo stammered, fear evident in his voice. I promise I'll be right behind you, Thompson said, forcing a reassuring smile. We need to get you to safety. Can you do that for me? With a determined nod, Silo rushed past him, moving deeper into the jungle. Thompson watched, heart in his throat, before turning back to the fight. The battle raged on, his team pushing against the Xerian forces with everything they had. Yuan and Xantar struggled on the ground, the commander fighting fiercely to regain control. Thompson knew he had to help. Yuan, watch out, he yelled, raising his weapon and firing a shot at Xantar, but the commander rolled to the side just in time, avoiding the blast. Damn it, Thompson cursed, closing the distance. He needed to end this confrontation before it escalated further. "Janus, cover me," he shouted, rushing toward the struggling pair. Janus responded with rapid fire, keeping Xanta's soldiers at bay. In a moment of desperation, Xanta pushed Yuan off, scrambling to his feet. "You will regret this," he roared, raising his weapon to fire. But Thompson was faster. "Not today," he shouted, unleashing a plasma shot that struck Xanta squarely in the chest. The commander staggered back, surprise etched on his face before he crumpled to the ground. "Xanta is down," Yuan exclaimed, breathless. "Now what?" "Get to Xylo," Thompson ordered, scanning the battlefield. The fight was still raging, but they needed to regroup. "We need to secure his safety before more soldiers arrive." The team quickly moved through the chaos, dodging enemy fire as they made their way back to where they had last seen Xylo. The boy was still huddled behind a tree, fear evident in his eyes. "We're here," Thompson called out, rushing to him. "It's okay, you're safe now. We're getting you out of here." Thompson, more Xerian troops approaching from the east. Hawkins shouted, urgency coloring his tone. "We need to move now." "On it," Thompson said, quickly leading Xylo away from the clearing. They pushed through the dense jungle, relying on their instincts to navigate the twisting paths. "Where are we going?" Xylo asked, glancing back nervously. "To the shuttle," Thompson replied, determination lacing his voice. "We'll find a way off this planet." As they moved deeper into the jungle, the sounds of battle began to fade, replaced by the natural sounds of the forest. Thompson's heart pounded as they pressed on, every instinct telling him to stay vigilant. The jungle was full of surprises, and they couldn't let their guard down. "Sir, we need to slow down," Hawkins panted, trying to catch his breath. "We can't just run blindly." "Agreed," Thompson said, glancing around. "Let's find a secure location to regroup. We can't risk being ambushed again." They continued until they stumbled upon a hidden cave entrance, concealed by thick vines and foliage. "In there," Thompson urged, leading Xylo and the team inside. The cool air was a relief from the oppressive heat outside. Once inside, they took a moment to catch their breath. "What now?" Yuan asked, glancing around the cave. "We'll rest here for a moment," Thompson replied, still scanning the entrance. "Then we'll figure out our next move. We need to assess our supplies and get our comms working." Hawkins nodded, pulling out a small device from his gear. "I'll see if I can get a signal out. Maybe we can call for extraction." As Hawkins worked, Thompson crouched beside Xylo, who was trying to steady his breathing. "You did great, Xylo. I'm proud of you," he said softly, hoping to reassure the frightened child. "Is it really over?" Xylo asked, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Not yet, but we're going to get through this together," Thompson replied, his voice firm. "Just stay close to us, and we'll protect you." Moments stretched into eternity as they waited in the dim cave, the sounds of the jungle surrounding them. The weight of uncertainty hung heavily in the air, but they had each other, and that made all the difference. After what felt like hours, Hawkins finally looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I've got a signal. I can reach command." "Good work," Thompson said, feeling a surge of relief. "Let's get the extraction details and plan our exit strategy." Hawkins began relaying their location and situation to command, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The team listened intently, ready to act at a moment's notice. "Command says they can send a shuttle to our location, but it'll take time," Hawkins reported, frowning. "We need to hold our position and stay hidden until then." "Understood," Thompson replied, feeling the tension rise again. They couldn't afford to be found now. "Let's set up a perimeter. Yuan, Janus, keep watch. Hawkins, stay by Xylo and make sure he's safe." As they settled into their positions, the atmosphere shifted, and the jungle outside began to quiet down. It was almost unnaturally still, a sense of anticipation building in the air. Hours passed, and the sense of danger lingered. Thompson remained alert, eyes trained on the entrance of the cave, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. Silo sat close, clutching Hawkins' arm, comforted by the presence of the humans who had risked everything to save him. Finally, as the sun began to dip low on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Hawkins looked up again, his expression changing from concern to hope. "Command is on approach. They're sending in a shuttle." "Good," Thompson said, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. "Let's get ready to move. We'll need to be swift." As they prepared to exit the cave, the distant sound of the shuttle's engines rolled through the jungle, a siren call of salvation. But just as they began to feel the weight of hope, a sudden noise shattered the moment. "Zirian Patrol," Yuan shouted, his voice urgent. "They're coming this way." "Everyone, back inside," Thompson ordered, urgency pushing them into action. They ducked back into the shadows of the cave, hearts racing as they prepared for what was to come. The sound of footsteps grew louder, the presence of the patrol palpable. The soldiers huddled together, breath held tight as they listened to the approaching footsteps. Thompson's mind raced. They needed a plan. Fast. "Get ready to ambush them," he whispered to the team. "We'll have the element of surprise on our side. On my mark." The footsteps drew closer, and Thompson could see shadows moving against the cave entrance. He took a deep breath, adrenaline surging through his veins. "Now," he commanded, springing into action. As the Zirian patrol entered the cave, the humans leaped from their hiding spots, ambushing the unsuspecting soldiers. Plasma bolts lit up the dark interior, illuminating the fear and determination on every face. The Zirian soldiers were taken by surprise, scrambling to react. But the humans fought fiercely, their training and desperation pushing them forward. Thompson focused on protecting Silo, ensuring the boy was shielded from the chaos of the battle. "Keep moving," Thompson shouted, urging his team to advance. "Don't let them regroup." They pushed deeper into the cave, forcing the Zirian patrol back toward the entrance. Yuan and Janice worked together, their shots precise and deadly, as they cut through the confusion of battle. "Thompson, we need to get out of here," Hawkins called out, urgency in his voice. "Agreed," Thompson replied, scanning for an escape route. "Let's head toward the back of the cave. We might find another way out." The team maneuvered through the chaos, weaving between the advancing Zirian forces. The cave. Thompson spotted a narrow passage veiled by thick vines. "This way," he shouted, leading the team into the dim corridor. The air grew cooler as they pushed through the passage, the sounds of battle fading behind them. Thompson could feel Silo's small hand clutching his arm tightly, his body trembling with fear. "You're doing great, Silo," he whispered, trying to reassure the boy as they moved deeper into the cave. They emerged into a larger chamber, illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that painted the walls in soft blues and greens. It felt surreal compared to the chaos they had just left. But there was no time to dwell on the beauty of their surroundings. They had to keep moving. "Which way now?" Yuan asked, glancing around. Thompson scanned the room, searching for signs of an exit. "We need to find a way back to the surface," he said, eyes narrowing on a faint light flickering in the distance. "There, that looks promising." The team hurried toward the light, adrenaline fueling their every step. As they approached, they found another opening, wider and clearer than the one they had just come through. "Let's go," Thompson urged, leading Silo through the passage. They could hear the distant sounds of the Zirian patrol regrouping outside, their voices echoing ominously. As they pushed through the opening, they were met with a steep incline. The air grew heavier, filled with the scent of damp earth and moss. "We're almost there," Thompson encouraged, feeling hope swell in his chest. But as they climbed, a loud explosion echoed from behind them, shaking the ground. "Hurry," Yuan shouted, his voice strained. "They're coming." Thompson felt a surge of urgency as they scrambled up the incline. The flickering light grew brighter, guiding them toward freedom. Just as they reached the top, another explosion erupted, sending debris flying and knocking Thompson off balance. "Silo," he yelled, reaching out just in time to catch the boy as he stumbled. "I've got you." "Keep going," Hawkins shouted, pulling Yuan forward. "We can't stop now." They surged through the opening, emerging into the twilight outside. The jungle sprawled before them, bathed in the fading light of day. The shuttle could be seen hovering in the distance, its engines roaring as it prepared for landing. "Over there," Thompson pointed, leading the way through the thick underbrush. "We need to get to the shuttle before they catch up." They dashed through the dense foliage, adrenaline propelling them forward. Behind them, the sounds of the Zerian patrol grew louder, their shouts punctuated by the crack of plasma fire. "Go, go," Thompson urged, feeling the weight of urgency in his chest. He could see the shuttle landing gear touch the ground, the craft just a short distance away. Suddenly, a plasma bolt struck a tree nearby, splintering it and sending debris flying. "We're almost there," Thompson shouted, pushing Silo ahead. "Keep moving." Just as they reached the edge of the clearing, Thompson felt a searing pain in his shoulder. He staggered, falling to one knee as he glanced back. A Zerian soldier had taken aim and fired. "Thompson," Yuan shouted, turning back to help him. "Get up. We need to move." "I'm fine," Thompson grunted, forcing himself to stand. He could feel the adrenaline dulling the pain. "We can't leave without getting to the shuttle." They charged forward, fear and determination intertwining in their hearts. As they neared the shuttle, a burst of plasma fire erupted around them, but Janice moved quickly, returning fire and providing cover. "Get on the shuttle. I'll hold them off," Janice yelled, his voice steady amidst the chaos. "No way," Thompson shouted back, unwilling to leave anyone behind. "We stick together." "Just go. I'll be right behind you," Janice insisted, his eyes fierce with determination. "Janice," Yuan pleaded, glancing back at the encroaching soldiers. "We don't have time." Thompson made a split-second decision. "Fine, Yuan, take Silo," he commanded, shoving the boy toward Yuan. "Get him on the shuttle now." "But," Yuan started, but Thompson cut him off. "No buts. We'll cover you. Go." With a nod of understanding, Yuan grabbed Silo's hand and sprinted toward the shuttle. Thompson and Hawkins took a defensive position, their weapons raised and ready. As Yuan and Silo reached the shuttle, Thompson could see the pilot, a fellow soldier named Morgan, waving them in. "Hurry," Morgan shouted, eyes wide with urgency. Thompson took a deep breath, preparing for the oncoming wave of Zerian soldiers. "Hawkins, cover our flank," he ordered, glancing back toward Janice. "On my mark, we'll pull back." Just as the first Zerian soldier emerged from the trees, Thompson shouted, "Now." They opened fire, their shots precise and effective, buying Yuan and Silo precious seconds to board the shuttle. "Come on, Janice," Thompson yelled, keeping his focus on the approaching enemy. "We need to fall back." Janice shot off another round, taking down another soldier, but the pressure was building. "I'm coming," he shouted back, retreating toward the shuttle as more enemies poured in. "Get in," Thompson urged, adrenaline surging through him. He couldn't let Janice be left behind. Janice made a final stand, firing as he backed toward the shuttle. Just as he reached the ramp, he felt a sharp pain in his leg, pushed through it, leaping aboard. "Shut the door," Thompson yelled, quickly moving to join them. He sprinted toward the shuttle as the ramp began to close. The last thing he heard was the roar of Zerian soldiers charging after them. The ramp sealed just as Thompson dove inside, hitting the deck hard. "Go, go," he shouted at Morgan. Morgan didn't hesitate. The shuttle lifted off, engines roaring to life as they ascended above the jungle canopy. The chaos of the battlefield faded beneath them, replaced by the serenity of the sky. "We made it," Silo breathed, looking wide-eyed at Thompson. "Yeah, we did," Thompson replied, exhaustion washing over him. He glanced around his team, all panting and bruised, but alive. Janus, Yuan exclaimed, rushing to his side. You're hurt. It's just a scratch, Janus said, grimacing as he examined his leg. Nothing I can't handle. Let's get you patched up, Hawkins said, moving to assist him. Thompson took a moment to catch his breath, relief flooding through him. Everyone's safe. That's what matters, he said, looking at Silo, who smiled shyly. Thank you, Thompson, the boy said, his voice small but filled with gratitude. Thompson felt a warmth spread through him. We'll always protect you, Silo. You're one of us now. As the shuttle flew into the sunset, the team began to settle, the chaos of the battle slowly fading into the past. They had survived against all odds, and in that moment, they felt an unbreakable bond, a testament to their strength and resilience as they journeyed into the unknown.